Hey there, and welcome back to 31 Days of Horror. And today is day number 27. Man, we've made it 27 days. It's almost the big day. And so today I checked out a movie that I had no good expectations for, uh, but it's a kind of cool concept. So hear me out. I watched The Mousetrap. Came out in 2024, and the premise of this movie is that a killer in a Mickey Mouse mask is killing young adults in an amusement style arcade setting. Um, and the reason that this is interesting is because this was the outing of the image of Mickey Mouse from the original Steamboat Mickey animation. That image copyright went into public domain. And when that means Disney no longer owns the image rights to that incarnation of Mickey Mouse. And as a result, people were like, hey, I want to see a horror movie starring Mickey Mouse. And that, the internet is like, that would be awesome. So, of course, we were going to get a bad B movie of this. And I checked it out today. Is it a good movie? Absolutely not. Is it kind of a fun concept for a movie to have checked out? Yes, it is. I believe it was last year we saw Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey came out. This year there's also a Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2. I'll probably check that out on my own, but I don't know if I'll do a review of it. But I did watch Blood and Honey last year. So it's in the same vein. The difference here, though, is all of the original Winnie the Pooh kind of stories and original characters, those entered the public domain. But Disney's version of Winnie the Pooh is not in the public domain. I have a strange interest in kind of copyrights, just because it's fascinating to see characters and stories that we see kind of retold over and over a lot, usually are a piece of familiar media that has gone into the public domain at some point, and that's what encourages people to make stories with these familiar characters, because it's kind of like you can tell a story and you have a guaranteed audience if that character already has fans. Or so it's kind of it's a cash grab, essentially. And so we knew we were going to get this as soon as this visage of Mickey Mouse went into public domain. Same as we knew with Winnie the Pooh, you were going to start getting weird stuff. And one of the first, easiest, and most kind of sought after usages is usually horror. Because you can throw a mask on anything you can get licensed. Like you can if you can have permission to display a mask in your movie, you've got a killer. And so Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, they decided to go the route of actually making the characters from the Winnie the Pooh stories real anthropomorphic animals who became murderous. In this, The Mousetrap, Mickey Mouse's vintage mask image is what's used in this film. So there's not, and here's something I have to commend the movie on. They know exactly what they're making. They know that they are making a low budget, not very well written, but moderately well put together-ish horror film. They know what they're going to give you. It's essentially a typical slasher movie. The killer just is wearing old-timey Mickey Mouse. This movie opens with probably the best part of the whole movie. They have a scrolling credits, a la Star Wars. Little disclaimer that of exactly what they're using, that Disney has nothing to do with this. They want none of their subsidiaries, and it's cleverly written. It's witty, and going into this film, it really gives you a good feeling of what you're gonna get watching this movie. It is not to be taken seriously. It is not looking to win an Academy Award. They know that they didn't make art here. They just took this opportunity to use this image, this iconic image, to put something out there legally for the first time, to be able to monetize this image that we're all so familiar with in a new and different way. Is that their motives? I don't know. But I think it's cool. I think it's cool that now something that's familiar can have more stories told, whether they're horror, they're drama, whatever. You're going to have that comfort image of that kind of Mickey Mouse. By having part of that in the public domain, it is now going to be more widespread and accessible, and it'll be a gateway to Disney. In a way. And we kind of see that in a lot of ways. The Ghostface mask, one of the Ghostface mask, was a costume. That, there's a line in the original Scream where they say you can buy this at every Five and Dime in the state. That is such an iconic kind of mask because you can buy it off the shelf kind of thing. We all know the story of Michael Myers' mask being a spray-painted William Shatner mask. So I think introducing this visage into the world of horror as a mask was a good first step. And just a good way to kind of, like I said, put a different spin on it. Do I think anybody needs to see this movie? Absolutely not. But I do think, I mentioned it before, there's good party movies. This is kind of a good Halloween party movie. There's not going to be any real scares in this. There are no great expectations. There are no subverting, anything. It's slasher horror. It's not even particularly good slasher horror. It's kind of it's relatively boring considering the fact that it takes place in like an arcade amusement a place. It's got laser tag, it's got video games, it has a little roller coaster ridey thing. It has all of these cool things. It has young adults who are drinking and probably doing drugs, and there's like a little unrequited love story going on there, and it's a boring movie. And I don't know how you can have so many things going on and make a movie that's still boring. But I think that kind of what comes with, like I said, they weren't really trying to make anything. They just wanted to make a thing of taking this image that has now become a public domain, making a couple of bucks off of it and saying, hey, we know exactly what we're doing here. And I don't necessarily think there's anything wrong with that. Like I said, I think it's a fun kind of watch if you're just hanging out with friends and you want to be able to say, like, yeah, I watched the Mickey Mouse horror movie. But beyond that, I actually think if you're interested in a similar kind of like trapped in a Chuck E. Cheese-esque place, if you're looking for decent horror like that, I actually highly recommend a Nicolas Cage movie called Willy's Wonderland. I bet you thought I was going Five Nights at Freddy's with that. Anyway, the Five Nights at Freddy's movie is not bad either. I watched that last year. I enjoyed it. I think fans of the game themselves might be a little disappointed because it focuses more on a story that really doesn't matter and not as much on the animatronics. But I think people who are at least aware of the games but aren't necessarily hardcore fans, but are at least familiar with the characters and things and a bit of the lore or the basic story of the first game, it's an enjoyable movie. Everything was well played. It's a little glossy for a horror movie, but no. So that's not where I was going with that. That's a fine movie. But Willy's Wonderland stars Nicolas Cage, and he doesn't say anything in the entire movie. I think he makes a couple noises. But he's kind of like a drifter. He essentially gets a Five Nights at Freddy's style job at a closed down Chuck E. Cheese where the animatronics come to life. It's basically Five Nights at Freddy's, but man, it's a wild ride. I highly recommend it. You'll get to the end of that one and wonder what you just watched. But now you're going to tell other people they need to watch it. That's what I can say about that. So if you're looking for a movie that's got these vibes, that have that, I guess, kind of, it's not a knockoff Five Nights at Freddy's. The Mousetrap isn't. Mousetrap is a cash grab on a Disney icon image becoming public domain. But if you are looking for things that take place in this sort of closed amusement style thing, I highly recommend Willy's Wonderland. If you're looking for more of an amusement park thing, because the way that they did the write-up, they called it, I think, an amusement arcade. And when you start with amusement, my brain just goes park. So originally that's also what I was thinking. So I was a bit confused on that for the beginning of watching it. If you're interested in amusement park horror, you have Zombieland. That one's pretty good. I really enjoyed the first one. Zombieland 2, Double Tap, I could have probably done without. If you're looking for like masked serial killer movies that really have a vague origin motive that doesn't really seem to matter to the plot, you can check out pretty much anything else. If you just kind of want to have a laugh and say you watched the Mickey Mouse horror film, then I guess this is a good option. Otherwise, don't bother with this. I watched it on Peacock. It's cool. The Peacock app is, I have to say, worth the money. My husband's able to watch football. I'm able to watch horror films this time of year, or other films too sometimes, that are either still in theaters or they get kind of early release on Peacock. And that's originally why I subscribed to it. So that's a good one if you want to check out some new movies early. But yeah, this one was kind of, and if you're looking for like a now it's in public domain horror to watch, Dracula, public domain. Frankenstein, I believe, also public domain. Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, not great. But you check that out. Sherlock Holmes. Sherlock Holmes is in the public domain. It's a Sherlock Holmes to a certain date. which also Netflix capitalized on Sherlock Holmes, part of that going into the public domain with the Enola Holmes films. And the interesting thing about those is the family of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle actually did try to sue Netflix for the depiction of Sherlock Holmes in their Enola Holmes series, because the more emotional and like kind of caring version of Sherlock Holmes appeared in Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's later works, not so much in the works that were actually in the public domain. Like I said, I have a weird knowledge of things going into public domain and copyright and whatnot. So the other thing I have to touch on too is that this kind of is in a way like fan fiction. That's one of the things we see as known brands and properties and logos and things like that. When they go into the public domain, we essentially see fan fiction be able to be monetized. And I love that in a big way, because I'm a fan of fan fiction in general, because it is really nice sometimes when I want to experience a story that I don't have to learn the characters. I don't have to learn the world it's in. I'm just dropped into something I'm already familiar with, and then they tell me the story with those characters and in that world, and I can just enjoy a story, and I don't have to, and I can experience the story without having to learn anything. That's why, people read series of books, because you learn the characters in the first one, and then the rest of the series is really compelling because you already know the characters. So it's just putting things you love into new situations. And we see that with, TV shows that last years and years. As things come into the public domain, do you get stinkers that are essential fan fictions that are just using a popular concept that people will click on, or people will read, or people will be drawn to tell a crap story and make a couple bucks or get a couple likes? Of course, there will always be that. But when things move into the public domain like this, it also opens the door for bigger and better things, and bigger stories, or better, like I said, gateways into Disney. You can now take this image of Mickey Mouse that's the original, this black and white original mouse that in mask form is very creepy, but in animated form is adorable, endearing, and it doesn't look like the Mickey Mouse of today, but it can be familiar, and it can be a familiar, like, it can be a comfort that can be around more if it doesn't have to be Disney branded, because Disney branded things are expensive. And it just opens the door for more stories, more accessibility to things. And I love that, because there would be a lot of things we don't have today if, Dracula wasn't in the public domain. If it wasn't, you wouldn't have all of the stories that people love now. You wouldn't have Anne Rice. You wouldn't have Twilight, or Vampire Diaries, or Buffy the Vampire Slayer, or any of the things that people really love, if that wasn't in the public domain. And I didn't love this movie, but I love the fact that it was able to be made. And I think that's a positive. That being said, Don't waste your time watching this actual movie. Watch literally anything else. And I will see you tomorrow for day 28. Have a good day.